While the hoards have been busy wishing away 2020, arguing over the science of masks and the legitimacy of shutdowns, and of course, canceling Marie Forleo, something truly astounding has been happening before our very eyes. People are saving. And I'm going to be giving you the lowdown on what I predict to be the Pent Up Cash Extravaganza that will be hitting the economy in 2021 and 2022. Stay tuned. So here's the question. In a world where the rules of business have been written by men, how do women entrepreneurs like us, women who want to make millions of dollars and impact millions of lives, how do we create enormous success on our terms? That's the question, and this show explores the answers. Welcome to Power Presence Position. I'm your host, Eleanor Beaton, and I'm on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who generate over $1 million per year in annual revenue. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, author, and leadership coach. I'm a wife, mom of 2 boys, and I'm the CEO of a 7-figure business. Stick around because on this show, you'll learn how to think, communicate, and get paid like a 7-figure CEO. Let's go. Hello, Eleanor Beaton here, and welcome back to another episode of Power Presence Position. I am recording episode number 433. What? One of my clients recently posted on LinkedIn. Her name is Stacy Mayer. She is an expert in helping managers and senior managers get promoted into top positions. And she just released episode number 50 of her podcast. And she was saying she felt so good and was thinking about the podcast that she listens to. One of them is mine. And I had released like 430 podcast episodes. It's so interesting, right? That's a lot of content, y'all. That's a lot of conversation. And you know what? I love it as much as I did when I got started. And I love you every bit as much as I did when you first started listening to the show. So thank you so much for being a loyal listener, by the way. I really, really appreciate it. So I had something super exciting happen to me the other day. Basically, I was invited by Canada's Deputy Prime Minister. Her name is Chrystia Freeland. She's also Canada's first female finance minister. So she is really one of our sort of star political leaders in this country. I was invited to an event with her. It was a 30-minute event, and we were talking about Canada's economic recovery plan. And I was sharing with her my perspective on women entrepreneurs and the types of supports that I think are going to be most critical to ensure that women entrepreneurs roar out of this downturn. So it was a huge honor. And it was fun because it both called on my ability to present ideas, my knowledge of working with women entrepreneurs, and also my knowledge of the economy. I don't know that you know that my degree is actually in economics. But anyway, some interesting things are happening in the global economy right now that I think are really important to take a look at. And there's been a tremendous amount of upheaval this year. And it's interesting, even though I think many of us are going to be happy and feel content in putting 2020 to bed, because as exhilarating, as transformative, as disruptive as it has been, that also requires energy. And so I think the ability to put a hard-lived, hard-won year behind us is going to be, a great thing for everybody. But I gotta say that when I look at what has been happening from an economic perspective, it's pretty fascinating. So while we've had the upheaval, the shutdowns, the COVID, while we've seen airline industries and hotel and hospitality industries go into the toilet, essentially a lot of brick and mortar retail has been impacted, all of that, something fascinating has been happening. And that something is saving. So people throughout North America, Europe, Australia households and individuals and companies have been quietly socking away cash. So in the midst of the layoffs and the restrictions and the shutdowns, households and companies have been quietly socking away what amounts to massive piles of cash. And of course, the reason that I'm sharing this with you is because when you have buyers and like corporate buyers and individual buyers sitting on piles of cash, that is a tremendous opportunity for the business owner who understands and is thinking about where is that cash going to be spent, right? And my hope is that much of it is spent with your business, that you are able to, leverage that cash to help you grow your company. So I'm going to get into this in a little bit more, but first I wanted to share a mini economics lesson. So the personal savings rate refers to the percentage of a household's money that's left over after taxes and spending. So it's basically what's in your bank account when you have, at the end of the month, let's say, after you have paid your taxes, you've paid your mortgage, you've paid the power bill, you've bought your groceries, all of that, what's left. So this is what's so interesting. In April, the US personal savings rate skyrocketed to 32%, which by some estimates is the highest personal savings rate since 1981. In Canada, the personal savings rate of Canadians soared to 28% in July, up from 1.9% the previous July. From 1.9% in July 2019 to 28% in July. Let's talk about the UK for my UK listeners. In the UK, the personal savings rate was 28% over the summer. Now, the previous 65 years, the average savings rate in the United Kingdom was 8%. So this is serious. Piggy banks gone wild. Now, let's talk a minute about the savings rate and what this means and why weren't people spending. So this is interesting. Let's say that your partner got a promotion and that promotion paid him or her an additional $100,000 per year. Okay, so your partner gets a promotion that adds, it's a good one, and it adds an additional $100,000 in income per year. You might save some of it, but the vast majority of people, for better or for worse, are going to inflate their spending and lifestyle to match the level of their income. So there will be some savings, but they're also going to increase their spending, okay? Because they feel that they have reliable income. Why do we buy? What influences our purchasing decision? What influences how consumers spend money? Confidence in the future, right? So if your partner gets a promotion in a quote unquote stable job, you feel that you can depend on that money. You feel confident that it's going to be there in your family's bank account month after month. So your spending levels rise, right? So confidence in the future is a really important gauge on consumer spending. It also impacts company spending as well. So why does the savings rate skyrocket during a downturn? Well, there's a number of reasons for that, but a huge reason in many economies like Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, is that because the interest rates are so low in our economy right now, it is really cheap to borrow money, right? Interest rates are low, inflation is low, it's really cheap to borrow money. So governments can inject a lot of money into our economies in the form of our stimulus packages. And so across the globe, as the full weight of the COVID pandemic hit our economies, country after country after country, and political leaders are scrambling to try to figure out how do we help our citizens keep the lights on? How do we avoid a Great Depression situation like we had in 1929? What do? They start pumping stimulus dollars into the economy. Now, what is interesting about this is getting stimulus money, okay? Getting stimulus checks from the government is not the same thing as your partner getting a promotion and bringing in an extra $100,000 per year. It's not the same as you developing really good referral partnerships and increasing your overall business income by 20% per month. When we get stimulus checks, we do typically that we see those, many people saw those as not money they could count on. So what happened is a lot of people thought, well, the government might claw this back, or I might have to pay some of this back, or this is not quote unquote real money. I had lots of clients who got stimulus money from the government for their businesses, and they were like, this is not real money. And so they're not quote unquote spending it like real money. What they're doing is banking it. Okay. So that's one of the big reasons that the savings rate increased, and why at a time when so many people are suffering, when there have been so many layoffs and shutdowns, there is actually a lot of cash in the economy. So what finance ministers around the world understand is that our economies right now, households and companies have cash, and they are not spending it, not because people don't spend during downturns. They do spend, but they spend real money. They don't spend quote unquote unreal money. Makes sense what I'm saying here, right? So they're like, no, I don't know. The government might claw this back. This is weird. We've never seen something like this before. I can't rely on this. So I don't feel comfortable spending it yet. Make sense? So that's one of the reasons why there's so much cash in the economy right now. And I talked about personal savings rate, but the same is true on corporate side. So again, a little lesson here. So when we talk about undistributed corporate profits, that's the amount of profit a company is not paying out to shareholders, right? So profits are typically distributed out to shareholders, or a portion of them anyway. But instead, in this case, what we saw in 2020 is that companies were retaining those profits because who the hell knows what's going on with the economy? They want to have cash in case they need it, that they need that surplus cash, so they're retaining it. So in January 2020, US corporate savings were at $360 billion. Flash forward to today, we're in December 2020, companies have saved $780 billion. So that is a ton of money. And the bottom line here is that there's a lot of pent up cash in the economy. Now, again, why am I saying this? Because we have vaccines now. So there are vaccines out in the marketplace now. Governments have got them and they're starting to roll them out. It's super, super exciting. And truly, one of the things that, finance ministers around the world agree on is that before they continue injecting more stimulus, in order for a real economic recovery to happen, they have got to get control over this pandemic, right? They have got to bring infection rates down. They've got to deal with the looming, well, not looming. I mean, it's the very clear and present public health crisis, right? You got to get yourself healthy before you can grow again. So what they believe is that now that, vaccines are coming out, and that, that should open up the economy. Now, people and companies that have been sitting on this cash, as soon as we feel truly confident in the future, that pent up cash will start getting spent, right? So all along, people were spending other types of cash, maybe cash that they were generating through their jobs, cash that they were generating through sales. But a lot of companies, and I certainly saw this anecdotally, were sitting on their government money. And that money is going to start flowing once they feel confident in the economic future. And the biggest thing that's having us not feel confident about the economic future right now is the fact that as I'm recording this, we don't have COVID under control. So when we do, girl, this is the point of this podcast episode. Be ready. Be ready. Fortune favors the bold, but fortune also favors the prepared. And so my invitation to you is that you sit back and you ask yourself, am I ready and positioned for growth in 2021? Could I handle more growth if I got 3 times as many customers in a month, or 2 times as many customers in a month, or I increased the number of customers that I got each month by 50% or 20%? How would that change things? Would I be ready? Would I want that kind of growth? Ask yourself, am I ready is my message clear? Do I have a good marketing strategy in place? Am I building a bench strength of potential employees or team members that I could hire if we start getting busier? How are you preparing for growth? How are you preparing for the economic recovery? And you don't have to put pressure on yourself around this, but I think, as you are having a glass of champagne, perhaps toasting this transformative year that has been 2020, I want you to ask yourself how prepared you are for what I'm calling the coming Pent Up Cash Extravaganza. And that may not unleash until sort of midway through 2021, right? But it's coming. It is coming because the core thing that caused the problems in our economy was COVID, right? And so once that's solved, there's a lot of potential for fast recovery and fast growth. Are you ready for that? Are you ready when people start spending this pile of cash that they're sitting on? Is your company poised and positioned to gladly and elegantly and graciously accept your share of that? And that's, I think, the question that you want to consider, because here's the thing that I know from the thousands of consults and coaching sessions and interviews with women leaders and entrepreneurs. If we don't feel like we can do a good job with something, we typically won't do it. We are not cavalier. We take our stuff seriously. So the best thing that you can do is to ask yourself, am I prepared for growth? Are there tentative spots in my business right now? Are there things that I'm sort of not looking at? What are the things that I need to address so that I'm open and ready and prepared to receive? I think, often we don't spend enough time thinking about that, but it's huge. Anywho, I hope this was useful to you. Professor Eleanor was in the house talking through, giving you a little mini economics lesson, but I hope it was helpful to you to kind of put into context some of what's happening around the globe, and that, where your business and your future growth fits into that larger picture. All right. Listen, if you enjoyed this episode, it's different, right? I'm talking about the economy. We're talking about a lot of different things that I don't typically talk about on this show, but I can. And so my question for you is, if you found this valuable, send me a note either on LinkedIn or Instagram, whichever is your fave. Eleanor Beaton, I'm not hard to find. And let me know if you found this episode helpful, useful, if you'd like to see more of this. I want to know. All right. Take care, my friend, and we shall talk to you soon. If you love this show, then you will love even more my missives, i.e., my emails. If you're not on my email list yet, I strongly encourage you to sign up at eleanorbeaton.com/join. Now, when you go and sign up for my email list, you will quickly discover why some of the most popular, well-known, and influential voices in the world of women's entrepreneurship quietly, studiously, consistently open every single email I send out, because they want to be inspired, they want to be entertained, and also I think they really want to connect with a woman like myself who's in full command of her voice and is willing to open up and share her thinking, her ideas, and her story. I promise you that on this email list, you are going to be entertained. You are going to hear really valuable tips about stepping into your power as a leader. And you're also going to get fun insight that I do not share anywhere else. Go to eleanorbeaton.com/join. And I promise you it will be the highlight of your inbox.